What's up, Zox fam? We're back with some more Tribe 9. Now, we're going to be getting into the ultimate Fractal Vice video. I wanted to make sure that with the new changes to the Fractal Vice, we're going to be highlighting some of the things that you really need to make sure you know. What's going to be helping you the most in terms of progressing and getting the most out of the Fractal Vice, and as well how you can utilize the PAR system in order to be able to make sure you're getting some of those juicy pieces of gear. When we're looking at that, one of the first things that I think is really important to note here is the changes to the map. Now, Fractal Vice is not exactly the same way or formatted the way it was before. Before, it was just kind of like endlessly traversing up a tower. You had really no idea the direction you were going unless like you were just one of those super sweaty people that were just in here all day making like, you know, little tracking maps of like what direction you were going. For the most part, a lot of the times week to week, the average player would typically just miss out on a lot of the chests or resources that were sitting there. So a part of this update, what they actually have gone and done is they've increased the visibility, I would say, and have made it to where we now have a map to where we can actually see what part of the Fractal Vice we have not gone to yet. This is actually really important because there's a couple of things that kind of coincide with this. You might notice that on each of the floors, there's actually a number in a floor. For example, it's B1 floor 1. These are really important for you to note because this is going to be your indicator in letting you know that you're on the next floor or you're going up. Now, there's another really important indicator on the individual map itself, and you can't see it here, but you can see it on your mini map. You'll see that there's a symbol and a B symbol, and then there's a red boss symbol. Right here, we are at the B rift, I would call it. And the B rift is actually just going to be leading us into one of those directions. We go back to the map here. You can see that A is right here. B is right here, right? So to the left is A, to the right is B. So it'll be taking you to those respective floors based off of whatever rift you take, right? Now, where exactly does this red boss-like symbol come into play? Now, the reason why this is important to note, and if you guys haven't, make sure that you guys check out my previous video where I actually play through because I'll give you a little bit of a better idea. But each floor is basically going to have this accessible. What this floor is basically is kind of think of it as a boss challenge or mini boss challenge floor that also gives you the ability to end your traversing on the Fractal Vice. This is going to be really important because depending on where you're at, how strong you are, you can actually stop your exploration and claim the rewards before you get to the point of getting beat, right? Because if you get beat, then you're not able to claim anything. What you want to do, especially if you're earlier in the game, you might not be able to necessarily climb the entire Fractal Vice, but you can actually go straight to, and this is on floor 1, mind you, straight to the mid-boss fight that they have and challenge that and still be able to obtain the special chests. Now, again, to reiterate what you're getting from the special chest, what's really important to note about that, the special chest is going to be giving you your presence. So whatever 3 characters that you bring with you, and this is just a recap for those that don't know, but whatever 3 characters you bring with you, it's going to give you a gift for that specific character on each of the on each slot of the team. So that's going to be 3 gifts that you'll receive for that rotation for that week, right? Now, once you receive that, it's usually indicated and it's going to be indicated here under the special chest, and it says obtained. And this is also going to be the same thing that applies to each of the nodes on the map, is that every single node that you complete and you gain every resource, it'll say obtained. Okay. And so with that, it also will highlight the pathway that you've already taken. So it just makes it easier for you to be able to identify, I've already done this. Now, there's one other big important thing that I want to mention here that they really did as a huge QOL. If you actually remember on Fractal Vice, there was always a unit or enemy type on the map that had a key symbol, and you would always have to go traverse, find that enemy, kill them, then work your way back around to wherever you need to. And you had to do that every single attempt that you were basically climbing. Now they've done it to where if you kill the key unit, you no longer have to kill them again. You just have to go back in, and this of course is going to be to each reset, but all you do from there is you go back in and then you can walk freely in any of the pathways at that point. You no longer have to do it again. So it's really, really convenient. This was one of the pathways that had a key unit like literally right here in the spot I'm standing in, and there's the door up there, right? So that door is just permanently unlocked. I just came in here before I started recording, so I no longer have to go that way. The other thing that's really important to note, and this is now getting into what exactly you're getting. What you're getting here is now a new tier of gear. Now, this kind of changes things because one of the things that I think was really important was, like, for example, when we're looking at Neo Chiyoda was presenting you with tier 9 gear. Well, guess what? You can actually get tier 11 gear here. Now you can get a combination of both tier 9 and T11, but when we're talking about procking the par is going to be procced off of the T11 gear here, okay? So let me actually show you guys some of the T11 gear. So T11 gear, and just kind of going over what some of those differences are, one of the biggest differences to T11 gear is the fact that T11 gear is going to have higher base stat values. So if we compare this to, say, a T9 is going to have a maximum HP output of 770, right? Versus on a T11, you're getting 1250. So that's talking about almost an additional 400 plus HP that you're getting on a piece of gear that you didn't have before, which is going to help you out tremendously. But it does not just only apply, obviously, to HP. This is also going to be applying to your damage slot. So it is a 250 attack instead of it being a 154. So you get almost an additional 100 attack. And then your defense is also going to be scaling as well. So instead of you having, for example, here, like with the 130 defense, it will then be able to go up to 250 base. So these are just really important things for you to note. For you to be able to vet and make the most out of giving yourself better gear. See, like I'm already finding a better piece right here. So we're going to go ahead and equip that, right? Now, again, this is going to be a little bit of a grind, right? A process. But once you start getting some of the better pieces, I do want to talk about how you can incorporate your par with this in conjunction to Neo Chiyoda, right? But we'll talk about that in a second. This is obviously one of the big things. You're still getting some of the same, set bonuses. So like if we go over to the filter, you'll see that there's no new set bonuses. The main thing that's changing is you're basically able to get, essentially higher base stats. And then on top of that, you then are going to be seeing the ability to be able to roll triple gold. Now, you could technically do that on tier 9s, right? But you can also do this on tier 11s. And the thing about tier 11s is that they just are inherently better, I think, in terms of the scaling for the base stats. But the main thing that's really being emphasized with your tier 11s is the tier 11s are going to be further emphasizing your base stat values. And what base stat values am I referring to? So let's actually go here, right? And we did this breakdown in the ultimate farming guide, but the main base stat values that you're really looking at here: max HP, attack percent, defense percent, crit rate, crit damage, support, moving speed, grant recovery effect, maximum stamina, damage cut rate, shield resistance, shield damage reduction, counter stamina cost reduction, and ultimate skill efficiency. Those are going to be some of the base stat values that we started out with. And so with this change, it's going to keep Fractal Vice as the main source of those stats, with you also then being able to get tier 11s. And then from there, you'll be able to actually take those and then go into, say, Chiyoda and use that, right? And we'll talk about that in a second. But either way, this is something that is really the big gain that you're getting. Now, the other thing that's really important to note is that the way that you're actually going to be receiving these resources is going to be very different. So at some point, I'll probably have my editor play that section. But when you actually get to the point of actually, say, you're like, all right, I've gotten up to this point and I can't go any longer. That's when you're going to go into the room with the red, enemy or the mid boss on it. And that is going to take you to basically I guess I'll call it the chess room, right? Now, in that chess room, after you beat that mid boss, it's going to basically allow you to claim the special chest. And then based off of how many points you scored, you'll be able to get a certain amount of chests allocated according to that, right? And I was able to show that based off of the number of chests that we actually received, you were able to get a certain value in terms of the number of chests that the score that you received. You got a certain number of chests from that, right? Now, the thing after that will happen is that you then will be able to go into a room called the center shaft, okay? Now, the center shaft is a little bit different than the rest of the Fractal Vice, right? So let's actually leave real quick. Now, the only way you can access or have access to the central shaft is you have to basically get to a point where you're at the end. So you have to be at the end, and you also have to clear. Right. And it's going to have you fight just a general boss. For this week's rotation was just Shark. And I confused it with Backgammon, but it was just Shark. Right. It wasn't anything super red limit series. This is where when you go to the central shaft where you're going to experience the red limit series. Now, in here, it will still take you to its own separate room. But think of this as a different room. This is now going to be what we would call just a challenge room. And now when you're fighting fighting the red limit series bosses, you're going to be able to challenge them according to whatever difficulty you can scale to the highest, right? So right now I have it currently at level 70, but initially it has you start out at level 50. And then once you beat level 50, then you can move on to level 60. Then from there, you can move on to level 70. So these are just some of the things that you have to kind of consider. Now, there is going to be medals that are attached to this, and this is all simply for bragging rights. This is why it says that there's no items to receive, because this isn't necessarily anything that is required anymore for you to actually be able to finish the Fractal Vice for the week or to be able to farm up your gear. So this is just something I just wanted to make sure I showed you guys so you had a better understanding of how all of this stuff worked, and really how you can make the most out of everything that's basically being shown here, right? Ultimately, you're trying to better your gear and you're trying to get the presents so that you can raise the values of your ranks, okay? Now, the one thing I do want to conclude on, and this is just, again, it's supposed to be a condensed version of everything, but I want to conclude on what values you're basically getting here, right? So remember, you're getting all your base stat values here, right? Then you have Neochiata, and I'm assuming from here on out, we're going to have different cities coming with emphasized values that might be catered to those specific units from those cities. Now, in this scenario, at the recording of this video, it is based on the units like Hinagiku, Ichinose, and Saizo, right? And the main thing with them is that, yes, you can technically do the rifts there and get T9 gear, but it's all emphasizing stats like the ninja footwork. It's emphasizing regenerate, things of that nature that actually work for them. So one of the things that I'm doing, and this is just kind of an extra tidbit, is that I'm using the par on pieces like, for example, if we go back to my Miyu, because this is a God roll piece, by the way, this piece right here that I actually did get in the video where I was doing my first clear, this piece right here is now going to be probably one of my mainstay boosted pars for my DPS, because I'm always going to want things like crit damage multiplier, crit rate if I can help it, and then of course attack 4, which is a really high value of attack. Now, if I can get a higher, value of attack plus or crit damage multiplier 4 plus, whatever it is, then of course I'll alternate those based off of what I'm trying to emphasize the most. But these are going to be some of your base pieces that you're going to be boosting in things like Neochiata quite a bit. So this is how the system seems to be kind of going hand in hand. And so I would highly, highly recommend, if you want to get the other portion of information that you're going to need to be able to farm effectively, and not just farming, but also leveling effectively, then you're going to want to make sure you check out the ultimate farming guide video that I have up on the channel. Now, of course, with that, on the note of EXP, it's still going to be referring to that video, with that being some of the better slots. No longer are you farming Fractal Vice bosses for EXP. It doesn't really give you any value there anymore. Again, it is just all simply in fun of the challenge, so that this isn't like messing with anyone's actual progression. So again, guys, that's basically going to be that with this one. I hope that this was able to basically condense everything and give you some of the answers that you may have needed. Everyone, stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.